Imagine a massive supply chain disruption just hits your company on a random Tuesday morning.
Right.
A critical vendor just went offline.
Yeah, nightmare scenario.
Total nightmare. And in most organizations, this triggers an immediate, cascade of panic meetings.
Hmm.
You've got teams pulling data from 10 different departments, frantic manual data entry across disconnected systems, and, days of lag time before anyone can actually make a decision.
Oh, yeah. Usually over a weekend, too.
Exactly. But in the target state of what we call the autonomous enterprise, an AI agent detects that disruption instantly. It reroutes the shipment, updates the financial forecast, notifies the backup vendor, and adjusts inventory projections, all before you have even finished your morning coffee.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. That is the goal. And today, we're going to look under the hood of the SAP Business Technology Platform to show you exactly how to build the operational architecture that, actually makes that possible.
Because it really is a massive paradigm shift. We are moving away from treating software as just this static tool and treating it way more like an active participant in the business.
Right.
But to achieve that level of fluidity, the underlying architecture has to be pristine. You can't just slap AI on top of a mess.
Which is exactly why you're here with us today for this deep dive. You, the listener, need a highly structured, strictly technical learning guide based on the SAP course operating SAP Business Technology Platform.
Yeah, we're getting into the weeds today.
We really are. Our mission here is to bypass the generic, high-level marketing fluff. We are getting straight into the core architectural concepts, the fundamental SAP processes, and critically, the actionable next steps you need to take as a platform administrator.
And just a quick heads up for everyone listening.
Yeah, go ahead.
While the actual course material doesn't necessarily lean on specific T codes or transaction codes, it is absolutely packed with critical architectural configurations and governance blueprints, stuff you are going to need to deploy right away.
Because before you can configure a platform of this magnitude, before you start provisioning global accounts or assigning developer roles, you really have to understand the operational architecture it's built on.
Right. If you don't understand SAP's end goal of the autonomous enterprise, your configuration decisions just, they won't make sense.
No, they'll fall flat. And to understand that architecture, we have to look at the primary enemy it was built to defeat, which is fragmentation.
Fragmentation is, it's the silent killer of scale.
Yeah.
Especially when we start talking about artificial intelligence.
Oh, 100%. If your business processes span across a dozen disconnected applications, your AI just cannot scale.
Right. Because your data is locked in different silos. Your decision-making requires manual handoffs.
Exactly. If your business is fragmented, AI just becomes this cute, isolated pilot project on someone's laptop. It never becomes an actual enterprise-grade solution.
And the documentation frames the autonomous enterprise as the direct antidote to that fragmentation. They use a very specific phrase to define this target state, which I love. It's people set the direction, AI executes.
People set the direction, AI executes. I like that.
Yeah, but mechanistically, SAP structures this not as a single piece of software, but as a layered ecosystem. So at the very top, you have Joule.
Right, the AI co-pilot.
Exactly. Joule is the engagement layer. Instead of a human user having to navigate through, 10 different application interfaces just to complete a routine task, they express their intent in natural language directly to Joule.
So it's acting as the universal translator between the human and the machine?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And then right beneath Joule, you have the SAP Autonomous Suite,
Okay.
which is the operational core handling your heavy workloads. So we're talking finance, supply chain, human capital management.
The heavy lifting.
The heavy lifting, yeah. And supporting that is industry AI, which is critical. It ensures the AI models actually understand the regulatory compliance and data contexts of your specific vertical.
Like manufacturing versus healthcare.
Exactly. A hospital has very different data compliance rules than a retail chain. And then at the foundational level, grounding literally everything, is the SAP Business AI Platform.
Let me try to visualize this for anyone trying to conceptualize the governance model here, because operating this environment is essentially like running a massive symphony orchestra.
Ooh, I like this.
Right. So the human administrators, you, the listener, you are the composers and the conductors. You're setting the tempo, writing the sheet music, defining the acoustics of the concert hall. And the AI agents are the musicians actually playing the instruments and executing the notes.
That's a great way to look at it, but I would actually take that analogy a step further.
Okay, do it.
The human administrators aren't just conducting, They are building the physical stage.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, this is what we mean by human-centric autonomy. The AI agents are executing, but they are doing so within strict, non-negotiable boundaries.
Right. You can't just have AI going rogue and ordering 10,000 pallets of printer paper.
Exactly. The administrators have to define the compliance rules, the data privacy guardrails, the operational limits. If an AI agent wants to execute a purchase order, it has to happen transparently, and it has to be fully auditable.
Makes total sense. So let's talk about the actual materials we are using to build that stage. Let's look at the foundational pillars of SAP BTP that the learner is actually going to be operating.
Yeah, let's get into the pillars.
The first core mechanism is agent and application development. And this revolves around tools like SAP Build, which gives your teams both code-first and low-code generative AI tools to build automations.
And the mechanics of how this is applied is where it really gets interesting. Take a standard retail scenario, like, let's say a bike shop.
Okay, bike shop.
You might need a custom inventory management application that monitors stock levels. And the second the specific bike frame drops below a certain threshold, it automatically triggers a complex purchase order workflow to an external supplier.
Right.
You build that extension here on BTP rather than hard-coding it directly into your core ERP system.
But building the application is really only half the battle, right? Because that custom bike shop app still needs to talk to the external supplier's inventory system,
Right.
which leads us directly into the second structural pillar, which is integration. And the SAP Integration Suite is a massive piece of this puzzle. You're dealing with, I think, over 3,400 pre-built connectors for both SAP and third-party solutions.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
And it isn't just a giant library of APIs either.
Yeah.
The integration suite is built heavily on the SAP Integration Solution Advisory Methodology, or ISM.
ISAM, yeah, that's a big one.
It is. From an operational standpoint, ISM provides architects with a trusted best practice framework, because instead of your developers just guessing how to connect two systems.
And creating this fragile spaghetti architecture.
Exactly. Instead of that, ISAM gives them proven templates. It asks, are you doing application-to-application integration, business-to-business, data integration? And then it provides the exact technical blueprint for that specific scenario.
That's incredibly helpful. And that brings us to the third core mechanism, which is the AI and data foundation.
The engine room.
The engine room, yes. This encompasses SAP Document AI, SAP AI Core, AI Launchpad, and essentially SAP HANA Cloud, which functions as a multi-model database.
Right.
So if we look back at the bike shop example, this is the layer that upgrades the system from simply reacting to low stock to proactively predicting when that stock will be low based on, historical sales data, seasonal trends, and machine learning models.
It's predictive rather than reactive.
Exactly. So we've established the architecture and the mechanisms, but from a purely operational perspective, this introduces a highly practical challenge.
It sure does.
Because transitioning from this big picture target state to the daily reality of managing BTP, well, it requires understanding who is actually pressing the buttons.
Yes. We need to dig into the operational reality, which is defined by the shared responsibility model.
Let's dig into that. Now, a quick point of clarification for the learner here. The documentation specifically focuses on the multi-cloud foundation.
Yes. Crucial distinction.
Because SAP used to run its own proprietary data centers, known as the NEO environment. And while some legacy principles overlap, the entire modern strategy is built on multi-cloud.
Right. NEO is legacy at this point.
So that is where we need to focus our attention. How is the operational pie sliced in a multi-cloud setup?
Well, it functions in distinct operational layers. At the absolute foundation, you have the infrastructure provider.
Okay.
This is the physical hardware, the data centers, the cooling systems, the physical network layers. In a multi-cloud environment, this is managed by a hyperscaler. So think Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, or Microsoft Azure.
And this is where we need to highlight a massive explicit action item for anyone setting this up. Do not interact directly with the hyperscalers regarding your BTP environment.
Yes. Do not call AWS.
Right. If you are operating SAP BTP, SAP manages that hyperscaler relationship entirely. So if your specific BTP environment is deployed in an AWS data center in Frankfurt, your contract, your SLAs, and your operational relationship remains strictly with SAP.
Functionally, that means if there is an infrastructure outage at that Frankfurt data center, you do not open a support ticket with AWS.
You rely on SAP.
Exactly. They handle that abstraction layer.
Yeah.
So moving one step up from the physical hardware, we reach SAP's direct operational responsibilities. SAP is responsible for delivering the platform's core services, provisioning your global accounts, managing your entitlements, and ensuring the runtimes and databases are actively available.
Wait, okay. If I am a customer listening to this right now, I'm looking at this list of responsibilities and thinking, well, SAP handles the physical infrastructure, they manage the vendor relationship with the hyperscalers, they provision my global accounts, and they keep the core services running.
Sounds pretty good,
It
right?
sounds like they are doing all the heavy lifting. So why do I need a complex, rigorous administration strategy on my end? Like, what is actually left for me to do?
I get that question a lot. The abstraction of the infrastructure often gives a false sense of simplicity. But the reality is that the customer's operational layer is incredibly complex.
How so?
Well, you, the learner, are entirely responsible for all change management and the daily operations of your specific builds. You own your customer data and content. You own the custom application development and the integration logic.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the most critical piece of the puzzle, the part that causes the most friction if done poorly, is account structure, environment management, and user authorizations.
And to be clear, we aren't just talking about creating a few user IDs and resetting passwords here.
Oh, not at all. In a multi-cloud environment, you have to architect how your business maps to the platform.
Right.
You have a global account, but beneath that you have directories and sub-accounts. You have to decide how your entitlements, meaning the resources you've purchased from SAP, how those are distributed geographically.
Ah,
Like, do you put your development sub-account in the US region and your production sub-account in Europe? Who has the authorization to deploy code in production versus testing?
so if you just let this environment grow organically as developers request access without a rigorous governance plan, you're going to rapidly find yourself with an unmanageable, highly insecure labyrinth of accounts.
It becomes a total mess. And furthermore, the documentation points out that several critical components are actually shared collaboratively between SAP and the customer.
Right, like security, observability, and high availability or disaster recovery.
Exactly.
To explain the mechanism here for the listener, SAP is responsible for ensuring the foundational platform is resilient and highly available across different availability zones. But if your developers write a poorly optimized piece of custom code that causes a memory leak and crashes your specific sub-account,
SAP's infrastructure perfectly fine, but your application is down.
exactly, and that is on you. Or if SAP provides state-of-the-art encryption tools, but you fail to toggle them on for a sensitive database, that security breach is your responsibility.
Right, and this specific dynamic, this risk associated with the customer's responsibility layer, that is exactly why traditional IT operating models completely collapse in the cloud.
Yeah, if you rely on the old way of doing things, you are going to fail.
When you say traditional IT models, you mean the classic siloed approach, right?
Yeah, where the company has a development team over here writing code, an operations team over there managing the servers, and a support team handling the help desk.
Those silos fail mechanistically because they introduce massive latency. Cloud-native development is built on agility. But if a developer needs a new sub-account, provisioned for a machine learning project, and they have to submit a formal IT ticket to an operations silo, wait for a manager's approval, wait for security to review it, and then finally get the account 3 weeks later.
You have completely destroyed the agility that BTP was supposed to provide in the first place.
Exactly.
So what is the actionable alternative here? How is the learner supposed to architect their human teams to manage this shared responsibility model effectively?
The recommended standard is to establish a centralized platform engineering team.
Okay.
This team operates parallel to your local cloud development teams. The developers are strictly focused on writing business logic and keeping their specific apps running. The platform engineering team, however, acts as the governing body and the technical enabler for the entire BTP landscape.
Hang on, if I'm a developer listening to this and you tell me that a central engineering team is going to govern my work, I'm immediately thinking red tape and bottlenecks.
Oh, for sure.
Right. How does putting another team in my way actually speed anything up?
It speeds things up because their primary objective is automation, not manual approval.
Oh.
They aren't there to read every line of your code. They are there to build a paved road for you to drive on. The operational blueprint for this platform engineering team gives them a very specific set of actionable tasks to ensure they are an accelerator.
Like what?
First, they define the onboarding process for new applications, documenting everything in a central knowledge base. When a developer starts a project, the architectural path is already defined for them.
Another task that stood out to me as a massive risk mitigator is maintaining a strict dynamic inventory of all applications.
Yes.
Crucial, because we are talking about capturing the repository links, the owning teams, the tech stacks, and every single technical dependency.
Yep.
From a security standpoint, if a zero-day vulnerability is discovered in a specific open source library, your platform engineering team needs to query that inventory and know exactly which of your 40 applications are exposed within seconds, not weeks.
Exactly. But the mechanism that directly answers your concern about bottlenecks, though, is the mandate to build a central service catalog.
Oh, this is the good part.
This is where the magic happens. Instead of relying on IT tickets for repetitive tasks, the platform engineering team builds an automated self-service portal.
So if a developer needs a new database,
They don't submit a ticket to a human. They go to the service catalog, select the resource, and behind the scenes, APIs instantly provision a secure, compliant database in minutes.
that fundamentally shifts the dynamic. You are handing the developers pre-configured BTP accounts that already have the company's networking rules, security baselines, and logging parameters baked in.
Yes, they get their agility, and the business gets its governance. It's a win-win.
But to build those automated guardrails, the platform engineering team needs to know what the rules actually are, right? They have to know how to architect those secure accounts.
They do.
Which brings us to the developer's toolkit. Where do we find the actual blueprints for this? The answer is the SAP BTP Guidance Framework.
The holy grail.
It really is. This is your central compass for architecting, implementing, and operating everything on the platform. It's broken down into a series of highly specific guides, and tracking how a project moves through these guides tells you exactly how the governance model works in reality.
The logical starting point for any administrator is the SAP BTP Administrator's Guide. Mechanistically, this is where you go before a single line of code is written.
Right.
It provides the templates for planning your organizational setup, mapping your global accounts to your business structure, and establishing your foundational security and identity models. It basically dictates how you manage the life cycle of your applications.
And once that foundation is poured and your developers are ready to start building custom applications, you have to intercept them with the extension architecture guide.
Oh, this one is so important.
It's absolutely critical for long-term platform stability because it forces solution architects to answer one question. Does this custom extension belong directly on the core system, or does it belong side by side on BTP?
Yeah, and this requires a brief explanation of the clean core strategy. Because historically, in older SAP environments, if a company wanted custom functionality, developers would just write thousands of lines of custom code directly into the ERP system.
Right, and I actually like to use a smartphone analogy for this.
Oh, there it.
Think of your S/4HANA system like the operating system on your phone.
Right.
If you hack the underlying code of the OS just to install a custom calendar app, the second the manufacturer pushes a massive security update to the OS, your custom app breaks.
Or the update fails entirely.
Exactly. So by keeping the core clean, BTP acts as the separate app store. You build your custom extensions side by side on BTP, and it communicates with your ERP via stable APIs.
I love that analogy.
Thanks. Your core OS updates smoothly, and your custom app keeps running. The extension architecture guide tells your architects exactly when and how to enforce that separation.
Beautifully said. And then moving along the project lifecycle, if your goal is to connect legacy on-premise systems to modern cloud applications, you turn to the Integration Architecture Guide.
Which ties back to ISAM.
Exactly. It dictates how to deploy the integration suite we discussed earlier, breaking down the patterns for process integration, data integration, and enterprise analytics.
Then you have the SAP BTP Developer's Guide. This is your blueprint repository. It gives your developers the actual reference architectures for core services. It dictates the standard technologies required for smooth integrations and provides the exact mechanisms for automating your infrastructure setups.
And finally, running parallel to all of this is the guide on DevOps with SAP BTP and security recommendations.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget security.
Never. This oversees the continuous delivery pipelines, change management protocols, active system monitoring, and the daily operations required to keep everything compliant.
So bringing all of this together into a cohesive action plan for the learner. If you are logging into your SAP BTP environment tomorrow morning to begin an implementation, mastering this platform requires a profound mental shift.
It really does.
It requires moving way beyond just knowing how to write a Python script or, configure a database. You have to master the shared responsibility model. knowing precisely where SAP's operational layer ends and your governance layer begins.
Right.
You have to actively dismantle your traditional IT silos and architect a centralized platform engineering team that can provide those automated self-service guardrails.
Yeah.
And you must rigorously enforce the SAP BTP guidance framework to ensure every extension and integration aligns with the clean core strategy.
Ultimately, the goal is to build an operational environment that is robust enough to handle the sheer volume of an enterprise today, but agile enough to support the fluid, AI-driven workflows of tomorrow.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought to consider.
Let's hear it.
We started this deep dive looking at the big picture, right? The autonomous enterprise. We talked about Joule and AI agents seamlessly executing routine tasks and predicting supply chain failures.
Yeah.
As those AI capabilities within BTP mature and agents begin automatically handling routine integrations, monitoring system health, and self-healing minor infrastructure faults, will the daily role of the SAP BTP administrator fundamentally transition?
Hmm.
Like, will you eventually stop configuring technical systems manually and transition entirely into a role where you are purely governing AI behaviors, setting strategic business logic, and defining the ethical boundaries of the system?
The conductor stops tuning the instruments and focuses entirely on the music.
Exactly. It is a fascinating target state to aim for. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take these frameworks, define your governance model, and deploy them in your next SAP architecture. We will see you next time.